In the Bible, there are three books known as the wisdom literature: Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. Proverbs teaches us that God is both wise and just. It presents a world where everything is fair, where the righteous are rewarded and the wicked are punished. Essentially, people get what they deserve. But then Ecclesiastes comes along and challenges this view. It observes that life isn't always fair. People don't always get what they deserve. Life is unpredictable and difficult to understand, like smoke. This raises a significant question. Is God truly wise and just? That very question is explored in the third book of wisdom, Job. Let's dive into Job's story. The story of Job begins with a unique scene in heaven, described like a heavenly control room. God is there with a group of angelic beings known as the sons of God, and they're reporting for duty. God points out Job, highlighting his righteousness and goodness. Then, one of these angelic beings, referred to in Hebrew as the Satan, steps forward. The Satan isn't a name, but a title meaning the one who opposes. His role in this scene is to question how God manages the world. He suggests that Job's love for God might not be genuine, that Job is only good because God blesses him. The Satan argues that if God were to take away everything Job had, Job's true character would be revealed. Essentially, the Satan is accusing Job of working the system, and God allows this challenge to take place. He permits the Satan to bring suffering upon Job. In a devastating turn of events, Job loses everything: his loved ones, his wealth, his health. And yet, even though Job didn't deserve any of it, as God himself said, he still praises God, at least for the first 2 chapters. But in chapter 3, we see Job's true feelings. He pours out his grief in a long emotional poem, cursing the day he was born. At this point, some of Job's friends come to visit him. They try to help, but their message is harsh. Job, you must have done something terrible to deserve all this suffering. After all, we know God is just, and the world is governed by his justice. So you must be getting what you deserve. For the next 34 chapters, Job and his friends argue back and forth in intricate poetry. His friends keep suggesting reasons why God might have sent the suffering, even inventing sins Job might have committed. But Job defends his innocence at every turn. And Job is innocent. However, Job experiences an emotional roller coaster. At times, he remains confident that God is wise and just. But at other moments, he doubts God's goodness, even accusing God of being reckless, unfair, and corrupt. Eventually, Job demands that God come and explain himself. Amazingly, God does respond, appearing in the form of a powerful storm cloud. But instead of offering Job an explanation or telling him about the conversation with the Satan, God does something entirely different. He takes Job on a tour of the universe. God shows Job the vastness and complexity of creation, asking if Job could manage or even understand the world for a single day. He reveals details of the world that we see every day, but don't fully understand, and how he knows them all intimately. God pays attention to every aspect of the universe, even in places we'll never see or comprehend. To conclude, God presents Job with 2 immense and dangerous creatures. These creatures are powerful and would destroy anything in their path without a second thought. Yet God says they're not evil. They are part of his good creation. And that's it. This is God's entire response. It's a bit surprising. What was this all about? The point seems to be this. From Job's limited perspective, it looks like God is not just. But from God's perspective, things are far more complex than Job could ever imagine. God is constantly interacting with a universe filled with intricate and dynamic decisions. This is what God calls his wisdom. Job's demand that God explain himself is therefore absurd because Job could never fully comprehend the scope of God's decisions. So where does this leave us? It leaves Job in a place of humility. He never learns the reason for his suffering, but he comes to accept it. He learns to live with peace and reverence for God, trusting in God's wisdom. But that's not where Job's story ends. After this, God restores everything Job had lost, giving him back double what he had before. This outcome is surprising. Is this a reward? Is God saying, "Well done, Job, you passed the test"? No. The book makes it clear that Job's suffering was not a punishment, so his restoration isn't a reward. Why then does he get it all back? Apparently, God, in his wisdom, chose to give Job this gift. We don't know the reason, but what we do know is that Job has become a person who can trust in God's wisdom, no matter what happens, whether good or bad. And that's the story of Job and the conclusion of the Wisdom Literature series.